But I took an old drill case that wasn't being used and I gutted it and I just stuffed it full of all of the stuff that I like to use for sharpening. This is just industrial diamonds. I like this a lot. It's a good size. This is the same kind of thing in a different shape, but that's just diamond encrusted bar of steel, and I use it to sharpen my knives. Somebody had bought these and didn't like them and gave them to me, and this is the same thing except that it's different grits. This is rougher and this is medium and this is fine, and so I just figured out what they were and wrote on the back so I don't have to remember colors. I just flip it over and I can read, and I find that these work really well, and I'll show you how I use those in a little bit. I keep in here needle files because sometimes, and they're diamond coated needle files, I need to work out a notch. Something has gotten a nick in the edge of the blade, and I can use that to take care of that. If I have a really rough knife that needs to be worked on, I'll start with a coarser stone and give it a few licks like this. And I don't know what anybody thinks of my technique, but at a wild game supper that we do every year, I offer to sharpen people's knives who don't want to bother with it, and I just sharpen it in front of them like this. And there are plenty of people that won't let me touch their knives because they sharpen their own knives, and that's a good thing. And I just went from coarse to medium to fine, and I would spend more time doing this depending on how much I needed to get an edge. But when I do this, I can feel how it grabs right at the edge. I can tell you that will slice a steak or a pork chop or a piece of chicken with ease. That's just a kitchen knife. To jump ahead, I will show you this jig somebody gave me as a gift. This is just one kind. It's a knife sharpening jig. But it holds your knife at an exact angle every single time. And it is a wonderful jig for making very precise sharpening movements on your knife, knowing that you're doing it the same every single time. The jig is set up with these guides. There is a clamp in which to attach the knife. I'll use this kitchen knife here, clamp it in there. And I have this selection that I can choose from: coarse, medium, fine, and super fine. And this blade is fairly sharp, so I will use the fine blade. This is a diamond stone right there, and this rod slides into one of these angles so that you can maintain the angle that you want every single time. And this looks like a very low angle, so that is what I'm going to do. I can kind of look at it. I'll go with the lowest angle, and then you can simply slide this across. Because of the attachment from the knife to the clamp to the angle that it's holding it in. It's going to maintain that angle all the time. If I take this and I flip it over and use the same slot, I go back and forth. Now, depending on the angle that you're working on and how dull your knife is, this might take a little while, or it might happen fairly quickly. I would say, since this is not the way that I normally sharpen this, that I probably just made this knife a little bit duller because I feel like I might have been at the wrong angle. And that is part of learning to sharpen. I suppose the way you learn anything is by a little bit of trial and error. So I made the angle a little bit steeper. One of the things that I would recommend is that if you really want your knife sharpened, that you practice with it. Learn to get it where you want it. Let me see what I feel like. Yeah, that was a better angle. I can feel it. Ultimately, though, I can tell you I use this on occasion, but I actually like to go back and sharpen like this. It feels more appropriate to me.